Thank you. I'm co-founder and director of a UK-based organisation called Marine Connection. And I have been doing this work against captive cetaceans for nearly 3 decades now, since I was involved in the UK campaigns to close the last facilities in the country. So I have stood outside dolphinariums when we had them in the UK. I remember going onto a pier and seeing 2 orca in a municipal swimming pool. So, you know, now that we don't have them, and the best experience in my life was turning up at the gates one day and seeing them chained shut at Windsor Safari Park. That was just amazing. Since then, as I say, you know, we all campaigned heavily and lobbied Parliament to get some tighter legislation put in place. We now have one of the tightest legislations for marine mammals anywhere, and this is why we have no facilities in the UK currently. We don't have a ban. A lot of thank you. Our last facility closed in 1993. So we've not had any ever since. We've had a couple of threats, you know, we've had applications to DEFRA, who would be responsible for authorising a permit. And since then we actually did approach the UK government to say, can we put in place a ban on any future imports? And they came back and said, hey, we don't think we have to, because our legislation's really strong. And also, if we were to receive an application, we'd just say no. So, you know, it doesn't look as if any time in the future, hopefully, there's not going to be any facilities in the UK. But what I'm going to say is, although there's no facilities in the UK, we have some bloody good campaigners. We have some excellent activists, and we have some fantastic NGOs all working together on this issue. Marine Connection are part of a coalition of organisations and individuals called Dolphin Area Free Europe, of which Ingrid, you know, Free Morgan Foundation, AWI, WDC, and I have the honour of chairing that coalition, and we work together on all captive cetacean issues, specifically in Europe. Marine Connection are also honoured to be part of the China Cetacean Alliance. Yeah, I'm upset now because I think of those poor orcas. I don't work on the China issue. My colleague Liz Sandman works on the China issue with Naomi and Ingrid and a few others. But basically what I wanted to show you today and was about the blackfish effect from my perspective in the UK, how it's made a difference to us. As I say, we have some excellent campaigners. Marine Connection has been built on the basis that we will always liaise with scientists, with other NGOs, and with activists and with advocates. We were one of the first small NGOs in the UK to actually take this approach. Quite a lot of larger organisations did not want to work with activists. And because I came from an activist background and I saw how powerful it could be in actually closing facilities, I thought, that's wrong. You can't cut off just one, we should all be working together. So that's what we do. And I wanted to show 2 examples of how I think the blackfish effect has worked. I work with Howard Garrett and the people at Orca Network. It's just one of the campaigns that we do, but I wanted to highlight this specifically because I feel it's relevant to this area. And relevant to Superpod. As I say, one of the campaigns that we work on is Lolita. And Marine Connection has been working alongside Orca Network, and we approached Parque Renudos, who are actually the overall owners of the facility, to ask them to come to the table to discuss Lolita. And they've ignored that. And they've continued to ignore that. So back in the UK, I was thinking, now what can I do to sort of bring this about? What can I do to bring more awareness to this? Parque Renudos is obviously going to ignore the whole thing. So how do I raise awareness on this? And while we were doing some digging, we found out that there was a company based in London who actually oversee the portfolio for Margaux Dodds. So Margaux Dodds are based in Madrid, but the company that we're overseeing and managing their portfolio and their financial shares was in London. So I contacted a brilliant campaigner, Joe Phillips. Joe, yeah, big up to Joe for those of you who know her. Joe was at the time, I believe, the UK ambassador for Shutdown Palace, which is now until Lolita is home. So I said to Joe, because she actually organised the Lolita rally every year in London, which I also used to take part in, and I said to her, you know, I think we can do something about this company, our capital, that are in London. And she said, yeah, and so between us we thought the next Lolita rally should maybe start in Trafalgar Square, but it sure as hell going to end up outside our capital's offices. And that's exactly what happened. Thank you. Because, you know, sometimes approaching companies doesn't work, but shaming them into exposing that connection to a company who are actually holding an animal like Lolita, sometimes it does work. And the next year, the shares had been transferred to another company called Candover Investments, so we did the same there. And we would continue to do it. So there are ways that these sort of things can work. And I totally believe that collaboration works. Totally. So what I wanted to show you was the first movie, the documentary you're going to see is called The Whale Bowl. And this was a product of a team of young film students in their final year at Greenwich University in London. Now, Emily had approached me before the Lolita rally in 2017, and she said, I really want to do this. You know, I didn't know anything about orcas in captivity, and then one of my friends said, watch Blackfish. She said, that has changed my life. I started researching into the whole issue of captivity, and she decided to focus on Lolita as an example. So the result... So she came to me and said, look, can you help me? Can we chat about this? And the result is the Whale Bowl. And the Whale Bowl was launched in July 2017. And since, it's gone on to win accolades at film festivals worldwide. And recently it was nominated for a student BAFTA. So this really is doing the job. This is getting the word out there. And the second piece of film you'll see is by Joe Phillips. And many of you will know that the Lummi Nation have come on board with the cause for Lolita, and they undertook a tour across the States with a totem pole specially made for Lolita, which ended up outside Miami Sea Aquarium. And the second piece of footage, in solidarity with the Lummi Nation, was sent to them just to show support from us from us in the UK for what they were trying to do. So I hope that this has shown you that collaboration is the way forward. Never ever underestimate the power of one. Don't ever say you can't do something. Everyone can do something. And no one's more important than anyone else. And thanks to all the trainers and all the people that have worked at marine parks and probably will in the future that are going to come out and speak out against it. Because it is the way forward, and together we can stop this. So I can't say enjoy, but I hope you find the footage educational.